Hello, virtual educators, and in this quick video, I just wanted to go over with you some standards for class participation that must be put in place in order for the LTVD to work. The first thing is that class participation must be required. This is not an optional portion of the course. So in order for that to be communicated, points must weigh heavily. For example, 1/3 of the final grade. In my course, it's based my assignments are based on 1,000 points. 325 of those 1,000 points are allotted for class participation. Okay, each session is worth 25 points. Grade must be associated with the editor's template. So the document that the students are creating together in the session live has to be also a separate grade. So for me, since I do units, all 3 or 4 of the editor's templates plus the reflection forms that's created into a little booklet, that's 100 points. Okay, and I use a 100-point rubric to grade it. But if you're not going to do units and you're just going to do single sessions that are, that stand alone, then the template, I would suggest that the template be at least 25 points. And it just depends on how often you're going to implement LTVD. It may need to be more than 25 points. That's the only way, when it hurts their grade, that's the only way that students recognize, oh, this is a class where, this is a synchronous class. This is a class where I have to actually come to class. The convenient part for me is that I don't have to come to campus, park my car, go into the classroom, maybe get a babysitter or whatever the case may be. That's the convenience for me, is that I can be anywhere in the world and take the course. That's the convenient part. But I actually have to come to class. Okay, and that has to be reinforced. Class participation requirements must be known at the time of registration. And I wanted to also talk about this. Let me go back to this class participation thing. If your university has a standard for when a student is dropped, if they miss 2 sessions or 3 sessions, then they have to be dropped for missing their LTVD sessions, because that's class participation. In the same way, in an asynchronous course, you use the discussion board at universities. Many universities use the discussion board for class participation, and if you can't just not do your discussion boards and pass the class. Okay, so this is the same thing, but it's actually being in front of the computer and collaborating and discussing with your classmates, with their classmates. Now, class participation requirements must be known at the time of registration. I love my university, I must say. I love it, love it, love it, love it. And I love the fact that our department has set up the system in which our distance learning courses that have synchronous sessions have an actual time frame that students have to allot for that class, in the same way they would a face-to-face course. So the actual schedule will say that it's a distance learning class, but it is held on Wednesdays from 6 to 8:45, or Monday from 6 to 8:45, or whatever time it's held. And the classes that have these mandatory times are always, from my knowledge at my university, have these evening scheduled times. Okay, so that needs to be in the schedule, because you don't want students to register for the class and then find out they have to actually be in class. Okay, that's not fair to them. That's not fair to you. That's not fair to anybody. And that's going to cause a lot of confusion. So please make sure that if this is something that you want to do, that you find out from, and that'll segue into this next part, that you make it known, that it is known on the distance learning schedule, that your course actually has a block of time, a certain day of the week for class. Okay, our distance learning classes are set up for once a week, and that's almost a 3-hour block of time. Okay, my class, we actually start the session at 6:30, so that gives them from 6 to 6:30 to get something to eat, get them some coffee, some tea, sit back, relax, get ready for class, do what they have to do with the children, like I had to do as the instructor. Maybe get a babysitter or have somebody or have the children in a nice little room doing some activities, depending on the age of your children. Have a babysitter come over, or you go over to the babysitter's house. I used to go over to one of my very best friends' home, and she would watch my daughter when she was 1 and 2 and 3 while I had class. So students do what they need to do once the standards are set. And the return on their investment is tremendous, so it's worth it. Now, class participation or synchronous learning must be supported by your administrators, your chair of your department, your dean, okay, your chancellor. Everybody has to be on board with the synchronous learning. Your distance learning coordinator or director, everyone has to be on board with this for it to work. And last but not least, you must attend class as well. In order for you to develop a strong educator presence with your students, which the research shows is necessary for students to feel satisfied, fulfilled, that they're not isolated, that they're not teaching themselves, all of that. In order for this to work, you must attend class. The LTVD is not something for you to put on autopilot while you go shopping, while you're cooking chicken, or preparing dinner and all this kind of thing. That is not what this is about. This is about real teaching using cooperative learning as the structure that you use for that engaging, active learning, deep learning, and your presence is necessary for that. If you were on campus or you were teaching K-12 or college, I don't think you would just leave the class and just have the students just do whatever and you're just gone for 2 to 3 hours. That's not what you would do, hopefully, and be able to keep your job. You're being paid to instruct. You're being paid to facilitate learning. So please remember that this is not an autopilot thing. Although your students are taking ownership, they don't need you like that during the process. But particularly at the very beginning, the first 3 sessions, they're going to need your feedback. You're going to need to guide them. You're training them during your first unit, or during their first 2 to 3 experiences with this model. So you need to be there, okay? And also what I do is to bring this home is when I look and see, I have a sheet in front of me with the groups, and I see that Kelly is not in group 1. It's 6:45 and she still hasn't shown up for class. I'll send a nice gentle email. Hi Kelly, I hope all is well. The session has begun. We can't wait for you to get there. We hope you're going to be in class soon, and we look forward to your attendance or your presence or something really nice. So the students are like, "Ooh, okay, so she is really monitoring this and watching and paying attention to me. She knows that I'm not here." And then students will respond. If they haven't sent you an email, if something happened, they might respond later on that night, or might tell you that something came up. There was, something out of their control, or, whatever the case may be, they'll respond. But they know that you're watching them, that you're paying attention, that their presence is desired and needed and expected. And so that is required as well. You must attend class as well. Now, you're going to be monitoring different groups, and of course you can get up and go to the bathroom and do what you need to do, because they're not looking at you and you're not having to facilitate the process. But you are observing your students, which we'll talk about in another module. You are observing them. You are making notes so that you can customize instruction for them, so that you can um, communicate with individual students about things they may need to know, or areas that they're having trouble with, combined with you looking at their journal template and seeing the areas that they may be weak on. Maybe the author's main message, they're not strong with that. Maybe some things came up during class that you noticed. So you want to be in class. There are times, I will share exceptions. For example, my daughter was being inducted into the Honor Society, and so I posted my announcement. I let the class know via an email and on the announcement page. The program started at 7. My class starts at 6:30. I was in there at 6 o'clock. I'm always in there at 6 o'clock. Posted my announcement on the whiteboard. I also sent it via the announcement page that I would not be in class, but they know that they continue on anyway. And I set up so that they can share their desktops and everything, because in the version that we have, the moderator has to do that. So I set that up, and they got started. My daughter's school is 5 minutes from my house. I went to the presentation. I went to the induction, which only lasted an hour. I was back at 8. My class ends at 8:30. My students were still in class. I was able to still come back and feedback. So, but that's not an everyday occurrence. But I just want to be real with you about that's how amazing this is, and the fact that it's online, that you're not face to face, that you didn't leave and come back, but that your students can conduct class and they do know what to do. If they do have questions, they put them on the minutes. So if something happened that I didn't get back in time, or they finished their session early, they still can communicate with me their concerns and their issues. I still can check my email when I get back or wherever I am, and I can respond to them. Okay, so that's the beauty of this process. But again, I must reiterate, you must attend class. What I shared with you was just an exception. So I hope that this has been helpful, that you must have these 4 components in order for the LTVD to be successful. I promise you that it's absolutely worth it. So do what you can to make sure all these things are put in place, and I will see you on the next video.